My name is Christopher. I come from a small developer consultancy in Norway. We've got 3 very skilled people and myself, trying not to get in the way. The topic for today is developers, engineers, and the downward spiral. The reason for this talk is the trend in tech, where more and more people get serious depressions. We've seen a number of suicides. That's naturally a tragedy. And it's not talked about enough. There's serious stigma attached to it still, and I believe it shouldn't be. A quick disclaimer: I have absolutely no formal training in anything related to mental health, in anything at all, really. So these are my opinions, and mine alone. Does not represent my company, my co-workers, or anything else. These are my opinions. And also, think for yourself. Don't just go home and do whatever some knob at a conference said. Just use your brain. The topic: depressed people in tech. Not depressing people in tech, but depressed people in tech. There's a difference there. It's not necessarily just about tech. It can affect the people who you're working with, customer service people, the guy at the front desk, anyone in your company. So it's more an issue of depression at work and how it affects all of us, both in our day-to-day work lives, but also in the private sphere. And as mentioned in the notes, the question is: should we deal with it or should we not deal with it? And I believe that's very important to address whether or not we should interfere. But first of all, shouldn't we really be happy? We have decent pay and we have fantastic job security. If you've all looked at the recruiting pages for Perl developers, there are Perl positions out there always. You can't go to a conference without there being recruiters there. but overall, there are naturally outliers. Some companies go bankrupt, and that's sad. But people do find new jobs overall. And also, there are many freedoms granted us. We have flexible hours. We have, well, for some countries, very good insurance deals. There are practical matters solved for us. I mean, some company even handle dry cleaning for their tech staff. So there are plenty of room for us to be happy about our situation. And also, we as techies get more and more recognition, both in the companies. Companies see now that IT is an integral part of the business, and as such, the people working in the IT departments are very important. And you have popular shows like the IT Crowd, etc., that have sort of romanticized techies. So what is the problem? Really, why do people get depressed? And there are naturally not one answer to this. There are many answers, and no two people will feel will experience a situation the same, and that's important to keep in mind. One issue, I believe, is that we're still a very young profession. We have no clue how to do things. We are not yet professionals as such, compared to other kinds of jobs. We have a long way to go. We're getting there. It's getting much better, but there's still a long way to go. But we do make mistakes, and those mistakes can have pretty destabilizing effects on both people and companies as well. Many companies do operate IT departments grossly irresponsible. You skip testing, you roll out stuff that is not ready just because someone has promised someone something at a certain point in time. And this leads to those 3 a.m. calls, customers having a bad experience, their account managers getting a really bad day, and you as a techie being yelled at. It's an evil circle, and it only gets worse if you don't start addressing the core issues. And also there are many high-stress situations. These situations are usually triggered by social cues that are not picked up on. It can be, well, one example, hope I don't offend any of you, but we as techies in general are not good communicators. We don't talk or express ourselves the same way that a lot of other people do. We tend to be very detail-oriented, very exact in many things, and perhaps we don't try to understand the other party's situation or where they're coming from, or how they ask the questions they ask. And that's an area where we could improve, and I believe that would diffuse a lot of situations if we focused on communicating better. And also, there's often too much responsibility. This responsibility often falls on the doers in the company. People that say, yeah, sure, I'll fix that. It'll be done 2 a.m., but I'll fix it. And those people become the go-to people, the people that will get that 3 a.m. call. And for the people that want to do a good job, this can lead to burnouts and other kinds of stress reactions that are really not good at all. But are there other factors? Life is complicated, and work is no different. We do have mentally exhausting problems that we work on. We do this, we sit down and we work on stuff for a long time, and it takes its toll even though we're stationary, and perhaps just because we are stationary. And also there is a very skewed effort and reward ratio. We get a problem in our lab, we start working on it, and after a while we solve it. But then there's always the next ticket in the bug tracker. No one really cares about how we solve that problem if we don't have proper code reviews and retrospectives, etc. So there's always this equation where you have a lot of negative coming in, that being the task or the problem at hand, and all the struggles you have up until the moment you solve it. And then you solve it, it's gone, and there's the next problem coming in. So even though you don't think about it this way, your body does, and your mind does. Anyone seen Little Britain? Computer says no. Ever tried explaining to people what you do on a day-to-day basis? Well, I go to work, and I have the computer tell me what a complete idiot I am for 8 hours. That's usually how it is. And then you do a code review, and your colleague says, you should sleep. So then you have got your colleague saying you're a complete idiot, and then 2 months passes, and you need to patch whatever you did 2 months ago, and then you think to yourself, wow, I really am an idiot. The good thing, though, is if you do have that thought, you have learned something. So that's a positive. You should view it as a positive moment, but it's not always that easy. So does this cause depression? Anyone? You think this alone causes depression? Well, it can, but I don't think it does directly. Again, these are my opinions. But everything adds up. The small issues can become big issues. And this does manifest itself in a number of ways. You get these thoughts. I'm not good enough. Many people have these thoughts. I'm a burden. I'm not worthy of love. Even though you're at work, you get these things, and people have these thoughts, really destabilizing things, and it progresses. It's a negative circle, or downward spiral, as the topic said. And then it gets worse. Have you ever thought about what could bring a person to think these kinds of things? Anyway, we're dealing with people. And one of the hardest things we can do is identify another person's inner struggles. Your set of thoughts will not be the same as another person's set of thoughts. Never. It's just not possible. It's a very good random seed up there. State is very often hidden, and it's very well hidden. But you can look for change if you're attentive, and that's what we need to be. And we need to seek to remove the stigmas attached to mental health, and we do that by talking. But how does this affect people? It's different for everyone. It can affect people getting anxiety, being sensitive to sounds or proximity to other people. You could get sleep issues, get issue with food intake. You eat too little, or you eat too much. You start using stimulants too often. That can be herbs, or the more fun ones, or alcohol, as simple as that. And I know this is a beer-loving crowd, whiskey-loving crowd. Just think before you drink. And also, people try very hard to keep up appearance. And this is a common theme. Keeping up appearance is what people expel the most energy on when they get into a depressed state. And there are different degrees of depression and all that, but basically you have a bad day, or you get sort of what you can call a depression. You can get diagnosed as as clinically depressed, etc., etc. But no matter, it is taxing, very taxing, to keep up this appearance, and it all revolves. So it gets worse and worse and worse, and it does affect other people as well. Communication in a team will suffer. It's inevitable. As you get exhausted, your ability to communicate will be affected, because you don't have the energy reserves to put yourself in another's situation, try to understand a problem from their perspective. So that's an issue. If you have communication problems at work, stop discussing the technical issues or whatever it is related to work, and start discussing how you communicate. It will solve a lot. Either you, as the depressed person, is depressee, I think. But anyway, there will be feelings of unreliability. You, as a depressed person, will feel that your team cannot rely on you, and the team might start to feel the same way. This might lead to an active or passive exclusion. If one person in a team misses deadlines over and over again, you start allocating fewer tasks to that person because you think, okay, they have a low capacity, but the problem is really something else. And this also affects businesses, and this is important to realize, and not to say that you as a depressed person are ruining businesses, but it does affect the business. And for us all to have job security, we need to take this into account and make sure that it doesn't happen too often. Depression is actually among the top 3 illnesses that financially impacts companies, together with domestic issues and stress-related issues. So purely psychologically related things are the most financially costly things that happen to companies. It leads to excessive sick days, and it does quite dramatically reduce productivity. And when you're dealing with deliverables with fixed dates, this is dramatic. Usually we don't have the huge budgets on the projects we do, and if we need to suddenly outsource a piece because the staff isn't meeting the deadlines, then that is very expensive. So yeah, needs to be addressed. But overall, it leads to dysfunctional teams, and a dysfunctional team is never in the best interests of a company. Job satisfaction goes down, and worker turnover goes up. If you're at a conference and what you project is our company is a fantastic place to work, then you're likely to recruit more skilled people. But if you get sent to a conference and you don't really want to talk about your company and you feel it's shit and you dread the Monday that you have to go back, then it's easy enough to be tempted by that recruiter running around. So yeah, there are several negative effects to dysfunctional teams. So who should have the responsibility to drive a positive change? The person affected or the person that is depressed? Absolutely. This is your issue. You need to address it. But you are not alone. That's very important to remember. Co-workers? Absolutely not. But you can do a tremendous difference if you do the right things. That's key here. You can also do a lot of damage, so just be mindful. And leaders? Absolutely. Your first responsibility as a leader is taking care of your team. Nothing else. Team first, business second. If you have a good team, it serves the business. So take care of the team. The business owners, absolutely. As a business owner, you do want positive returns on your investments. You do this by making sure that the business performs as well as it could or can. So make sure that your leaders are empowered to do things, to be flexible, to get the proper training, to get the support, and be available for them if they have issues. Many leaders feel it's a very daunting task to address things with their employees. Many people have come from, for example, a purely technical background, and they become a leader because they are the ones who've stayed at the company for the longest. They know the business, they know how to talk to management, perhaps they know how to talk to the business owners as well, and they get promoted. But it doesn't mean that they have the proper training they need to be a leader. So, to backtrack, how do we remove stigma? I think this is the most important thing to get started with a positive change. You need to schedule time to talk as a group. It doesn't need to be the whole company of 150 people in an auditorium. That won't work. But if you're a team of 3 or 4 people, just make sure that it is okay to talk about mental health. Not necessarily your own mental health, but just raise the issue from time to time. Make sure that people know that it is okay to say that, okay, I'm having a really bad day, or I just need to be by myself for a little while. And also, if you can, share whatever you are comfortable sharing, but also acknowledge that not everyone is, and that should also be okay. Never force anyone to share something. And some words of advice. For leaders, take the time to listen. Don't talk, listen. Hear how people experience their day-to-day lives. Not just at work, but in their private sphere as well. Very often trouble at work stems from trouble at home, in their in the private sphere. It can be as simple as you have a too long commute. So you spend 2 hours going to work, and you spend 2 hours going back from work, and you feel you don't have any time left to relax. And that builds over time. As a leader, you can solve that by saying, well, work from home 2 days a week. See how that works. Or offer incentives. Try to move closer to work. If that's a financial issue, address that. Talk to the business owners. Say that this person is important to the business. We should help them have a better life. This will serve the company. And business owners will understand this. Be aware of change. I mentioned this previously as well. You need to be attentive. Change is something you can spot. It can be as simple as someone is losing or gaining weight rapidly. They shut the door to their office all day, or they always come late to work, or they stop showering, or whatever. Be mindful of these things and make yourself available. It doesn't mean forcing people to talk to you, but just mentioning from time to time that, well, if there are any issues, just let me know. We'll talk about it. But also, be mindful of your own state. As a leader, whatever state you're in will ripple out. You do project, and it will be enhanced by the team. It'll be like ripples in a little pond of rocks. It does affect people. And if you have a team where one or more individuals are susceptible to negative stimuli, then this can be really bad. So be a rock, and don't project, but try to change whatever negative comes to you into a positive. Co-workers, you need to show interest in people's lives and be caring. Don't be overbearing or stuff like that. Just ask how people are doing, what they spent their weekend on. Some people are very good at this, and some people are absolutely rubbish. But it's a useful skill, and it will you will benefit from this in all aspects of life. Show an interest, even though it's not the field that you're interested in. If you meet a potter, ask them about what they do for work and the details of it and stuff like that. People will talk, and you get these small cues of other things you can talk about, and over time it becomes natural, becomes second nature. And try to understand and never judge. Don't assume that you can use your own experiences and sort of explain why someone feel the way that they do. You don't necessarily know their background, what they've gone through previously. They can have triggers that are baffling. They can be sound, smells, etc. Just try to be aware of things. And never ever gossip. if someone tells you something, be a confidant. Never share anything. And this goes for leaders as well. If an employee tells you something in private, then that is something you should never relay to your superiors or the business owners. You may say that I have talked to one of my employees and there are some issues we need to resolve, and I believe that these measures are the correct ones. But never ever go into detail. And also be inclusive and be positive. If you feel someone is isolating themselves, try to include them. Get them to participate in discussions. If there is an issue that needs to be resolved, and there's the guy at the office that sort of closes himself off, include him in discussions that are not related to his work, but ask for his opinions and advice as an outsider to the problem that you're trying to solve. And the person affected, you need to challenge yourself. Always. This is very hard when you're struggling, but it's very important that you do. Unless you challenge yourself, you will just keep going down the slope, and none of us want that. And you need to talk to your superiors. Let them know that there are issues that you're working through. Might not be necessary to go into detail. You might not be comfortable going into detail, but let them know so that they are aware of that there are issues that they can be mindful of, and perhaps the company has got a policy on how to deal with mental health issues. Perhaps there are programs, psychiatrists or psychologists that can be brought in, so that the financial side of getting help is not an issue. And do seek professional help. It might not work for you, but try it. For some it's got great effects, but for some people it's enough to go there and get sort of a professional's opinion that, yeah, you're screwed. This is bad. You need to fix this. But it might help to trigger the will to change. And also look to literature. Today we know a lot more about mental health and also the chemistry behind mental health. And there are many good techniques. If you contact me after the show, I can recommend you some books that are fantastic. There are many techniques to handle high stress situations, to handle whenever you get negative thoughts, identifying the thoughts that are basically irrational and that need to be questioned and broken down and basically filtered out. And lastly, know this: you are good enough. You do have much to offer, especially a highly technical crowd. People will look to you to get your opinion on stuff. You are appreciated, and you are one of us. Thank you. So, any questions?
Just a little addition. I would say one of your last remarks was to see, reflect on your thoughts. I would say one of the most helpful things, also from my experience, is that people actually learn to differentiate feelings from thoughts. This is just if you do that, you did a big step.
Absolutely. So just for the people watching the videos, the comment was, you need to learn to differentiate feelings from thoughts, and that's very important. Thank you for that comment. It's that that does drive change, and it's really helpful. Anything else?
You talked about when somebody gets into depression, depressed, but I think as a team it's also very important to be aware of the period beforehand if you try to avoid people getting into such a situation.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, again, the comment was look back on the time before a change sets in, so that you can identify this and try to prevent these things in the future. Yeah.
You talked about leaders and you talked about depressed people, but sometimes the leaders are the depressed people.
Yeah.
And they have to, I say they, sometimes have to keep up appearances to help someone else.
Yeah.
And other times I have to be honest with them, I'm burned out today. And, you can't just do it one way or the other. You just have to keep negotiating that if you're in leadership.
Yeah.
How much you are the cheerleader, even if you don't feel like it, and how much you're the empathizer.
Yeah.
Because you do feel like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So.
That's a tough role for leaders.
Yeah, absolutely. Leaders do have a bad spot to be in. So the comment was the leader needs to drive positive change and be a role model for a team, but he might not be himself what he tries to. Well, he might not be as positive as he want all his subordinates to be. He might be struggling with serious depression himself, but needs to project positive feelings and a positive change in everyone. And if you're in that state, it's very, very hard. And I believe that if you can be honest with your team, that you do as well have issues that you're working through, then the team can be aware of this as well. So it can be. You need to look at the team, you need to look at the people and make a decision. And here we come back to looking up, talking to the business owners, but also if you are, say you are the CEO of a company, you do have the opportunity to basically enroll yourself in training, so that you become a better leader, so that you are better equipped to deal with your own issues. And those might be chemical imbalances in your brain, and something that you can't necessarily deal with just by trying to be positive. But yeah. Yeah.
Just resolving that, I would just be very honest how I feel about that and let it make the decision.
Yeah.
That was enough.
Yeah. Honesty is always important. Be honest with yourself, and try to be honest with the people close to you. If someone asks how you're doing, it should be perfectly fine to say, I'm not doing too good. I have had a rough morning. I hope it doesn't affect the rest of the day. And people will usually pick up on that and be more understanding. So yeah. Yeah, I'll update the talk, and I can put an addendum to it with recommended reading.
So you're saying you're going to update the
Yeah. I'll update the act site. Ah, right, fantastic. So the comment was, it'll show up in the video, so you can click it, yeah, and get to the presentation and the recommended reading.
Maybe another thing I've never kept surprised how big of a difference nutrition can make. So a change of nutrition. It's not for everyone, but there are some cases it has immense effect.
Yeah. Nutrition is very important. One of the things that can be a problem for people going into depression is they feel tired all the time. And when you feel tired, you don't want to spend the time making proper food. So you grab a burger on your way home, and then you start doing that every day, or you just order a pizza. So yeah, that takes its toll on the body, and it also affects the mind. So switching up the diet is important. And actually, these days, most psychologists seem to recommend dealing with those kinds of day-to-day nutritional issues as a good first step.
Eating, like you said, enough nutrition, like a good meal in the morning to get a good start. And what seems more surprising because I'm vegetarian, because advocate for that in normal cases, but there's a special case I would think about that switching to a meat diet actually is someone.
Yeah, yeah. So the comment was that it's not an issue for everyone, but for some that are, for example, vegetarian, switching to a meat diet might help. We do know that eating meat affect the brain in several ways, and the brain chemistry is one of those things that can be affected. You don't know how it can affect it, so it'll be trial and error, but absolutely it's a very good point. Any other? Okay, then we're done. Thank you.